questions for them, we definitely encourage you to ask. The way we will be asking and doing Q&A is through the Q&A box on WebEx. So take a minute now and look for where that is for you, depending on if you're on a mobile device or on a laptop or desktop. It may be in a slightly different location, but it's just called Q&A, not the chat box, Q&A. And you may have to open that. There's a little arrow next to it, a little caret. You may have to click that actual little button, or if you're on a mobile device, it's an actual button. You click that to open up your Q&A. When that's open, you'll have the opportunity to type your question and also select a recipient for your question. Please select all panelists as the recipient, regardless of who your question is for. That will make sure that we can get the question and we'll queue them up for the speakers. We're not going to be taking questions until the end of the webinar, but please feel free to send your questions at any time, and we'll get them in the queue for the speakers at the end. If you need help or technical assistance at all throughout the day or the webinar, use that Q&A box as well to all panelists, and we can help you one-on-one. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick introduction to the series. Before we get started with our speakers, we have 3 webinars that we're doing in this series. Today is the first. We'll have one on the 4th and one on the 11th, so 1 per week, same time. Those are going to be on, the next one's going to be on measuring and evaluating impact, and the final one will be on collecting and reporting data. If you have not already registered for those events, you do need to register separately for each of the 3 events. So why did we develop this series? Well, this is actually a project of the SNAP-Ed Toolkit and the SNAP-Ed Connection, and was inspired by the many questions that have been posed on ASNA open calls, as well as questions that we've received at SNAP-Ed Connection, and by the regional and national staff at Food and Nutrition Service. Obviously, the pandemic has created a new environment, and SNAP-Ed partners have had to adapt and sometimes change the way that they plan, implement, and evaluate their programming. It's certainly been a challenging time, and it's clear that it has also presented a tremendous opportunity for innovation and collaboration and sharing. So what will we explore? In today's session, we're going to be focused on SNAP-Ed programming and adapting it to remote delivery. We wanted to share with you some lessons learned and best practices for implementing engaging programs remotely. You will hear examples from emerging and tested ideas for remote delivery. There we go. So for today's session, session 1, we brought together 3 SNAP-Ed implementing agencies who are all doing good work in this arena. We wanted to gather together some experts who have a long track record of delivering SNAP-Ed in remote environments, and also bring together experts who've traditionally involved more face-to-face, hands-on programming to see how they have adapted their programs to continue meeting the needs of their communities. So our first speakers today, I'm going to load up their slide deck, are from, I'm going to give presenter status to our first speaker. Our first speakers today are from University of Georgia SNAP-Ed program. We'll hear from project coordinator Eda Cota-Rivera and research associate Dr. Sarah Stutz. Eda Cota-Rivera has a professional background of 30 years of community health education and chronic disease prevention work, with over 10 years working directly with SNAP-Ed and SNAP programming. As the University of Georgia's SNAP-Ed program coordinator, she works closely with the program's principal investigators to develop, implement, and evaluate direct education, indirect education, and comprehensive social marketing campaigns for their priority audiences. Dr. Stutz is currently senior instructor at the University of Colorado Ann Schultz Medical Campus and Colorado School of Public Health. She completed her postdoctoral fellowship and PhD training at the University of Georgia. Her PhD research focused on the development, evaluation, and dissemination of the nation's first online asynchronous SNAP-Ed programs entitled Food E-Talk and Food E-Talk Better You, which we'll hear more about today. Okay, Eda, you have the presenter status and should be
Actually, great. Thank you, Gina, for that introduction. We really appreciate this opportunity. I also bring Greetings from Georgia and from Dr. Johnson Lee, our principal investigator. Unfortunately, she's not with us today. She's in South Korea attending a family emergency. But we definitely are very grateful for this opportunity to share our experiences in adapting SNAP-Ed programming for remote delivery. So we will share briefly an overview of our program and review the components of the e-learning development. And we expect that our findings about challenges and new opportunities are beneficial to your own programming. For the last 7 years, the University of Georgia SNAP-Ed program has been delivering our programming to our priority audience as one of 4 implementing agencies in our state. Our programs include evidence-based and culturally appropriate curricula, and our impact is possible because of the collective capacity of the University of Georgia, Cooperative Extension, and the collaboration that we have established with multiple partners that across the state. Here is an overview of our programs. We implement our direct education in 8 counties using our Food Talk curricula. We reach the whole state with our social marketing approaches, and we serve the early education community with the Healthy Childcare Georgia. But we expand our reach to all with our Foodie Talk programming in all 159 counties. During the pandemic, we have all rediscovered the value of time. This chart provides a timeline of our efforts to develop, implement, and evaluate our e-learning programs, as Gina mentioned, as an asynchronous learning approach. 7 years and counting, the efforts for this time has paid off, as in 2019 when our Foodie Talk program was included in the SNAP-Ed Toolkit. During the same year, we completed the translation of both Food E-Talk and Foodie Talk Better You into Spanish. 2020 marked the time when we had a good plan to do a wide dissemination of our program. But, of course, the pandemic added another meaning to that plan. And here is one of the flyers that we have distributed widely instead of related to "You stuck at home? We can help with Foodie Talk." Here is an example of that flyer. So next week, we also will share our experience with virtual learning. But like Gina said, today, Dr. Sarah Scott will walk us through the process of developing Foodie Talk, as she was the PhD student working with Dr. Lee, and also as a postdoctoral fellow in our program, and with our team developing Foodie Talk. Sarah?
Great, thank you. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and I'll just echo added sentiments. Thank you for inviting us, Gina, and to present on behalf of UGA SNAP-Ed. So one thing I like to point out with this particular slide, that these goals that we put for UGA SNAP-Ed e-learning, we've actually used the same slide for many years. These are not goals specific to the pandemic. They just happen to fit, maybe more timely now than ever before because of what we're all experiencing. So our original plan to develop an e-learning program for UGA SNAP-Ed was to serve this audience who know how increasing access to the internet, primarily through mobile devices. We also wanted to provide alternatives to those who can't get to class. And we know that a lot of our participants have issues with transportation, for example, childcare. So home-based learning was going to perhaps work for them better. Again, this is all before the pandemic. We wanted to add a learning tool for those who came to classes but maybe wanted a bit of a review. And then just supported by e-learning theory, which you'll hear me discuss a few times, this idea of reaching individuals at the point of decision making, especially when smartphone was the way they accessed the internet, really lent itself to the support of e-learning in that adults typically like to learn at the moment that they need the information rather than learning something in a classroom and perhaps having to apply it later. So the example we always give is at the supermarket when an adult needs to make a decision about purchasing a healthy bread or cereal or what have you. The e-learning device on the smartphone could allow them to learn right there at the crucial point of decision making. And then, of course, we wanted to expand our opportunities statewide. There's far more participants who need our services than we have staff, so we wanted to have as much of a reach as we could. This next slide, I know it looks a little busy, and the good news is that it is available. It's in a published journal for a couple of years now, and if anyone needs access to that journal, you can see the citation listed. But what we really want to show you on this slide, and the goal of this is to help any of you who haven't developed an e-learning program more easily get past some of the bumps and the hurdles that we dealt with when we started developing this program. So truly, the middle blue circle simplifies that this is an iterative process, and that right from the beginning, in the perfect world, you would have your curriculum development team, your instructional design or e-learning team, your evaluation experts, and technical support all at the table at the beginning of the project to truly understand how best to utilize your online learning environment. Something I will point out is that Food eTalk was originally developed to be asynchronous and self-driven. So unlike what we're doing right now on this live time webinar where we're in synchronous learning mode, Food eTalk was always meant to be asynchronous. So anytime, any place learning, and we really needed the tech support and the instructional design support to help us, myself as a dietitian and other dietitians involved, to develop this in a way that truly utilized the online learning platform. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we have two different online programs actually, and both of them, the content is based on in-person classroom curricula. So we have Food Talk and Food Talk Better You, which we just add a little E to both of them. So we've got Food eTalk and Food eTalk Better You. But in adapting to online delivery, we did a couple of key things. So first and foremost, we made it so the order of the lessons is more participant-driven than didactic. So if a participant wants to start with lesson 4 because that's what he or she is interested in, they can start with lesson 4. That is certainly supported by e-learning and adult learning theory to allow the adult learner to choose what topic interests him or her right then. The lessons are also significantly shorter than an in-person class. You guys are all troopers for being 90 minutes on this webinar with us, but most of our learners and most busy adults don't necessarily have time to be on a 90-minute long webinar or class on a daily basis. So instead, we smushed these down, and on average, they take 8 to 12 minutes, which we found might even be too long for some of our learners, so 2 to 3 minutes for the Food eTalk Better You, and those are averages. Some people do take a little bit longer depending on how quickly they read or go through the lessons. We also have augmenting those videos so that we can really enhance the multimedia approach. We have cooking videos, exercise videos, and we also have these just-in-time videos, which again, as I mentioned earlier, really try to highlight this ability to, this ubiquitous anytime, anyplace learning. And these videos are very specific to helping people make crucial nutrition-related decisions at the point that they're about to make, for example, a purchase at the supermarket. Thank you, Etta. So some of our engaging features, and I know that was something that Gina asked us to talk about, was how do we make this engaging for our learners? Hopefully we did a good job of that by, first of all, developing for the smartphone screen size. So most of our learners do access internet on the smartphone versus a laptop or a desktop. Highly recommend, if that's the case for you, that you develop it for smartphones first, and then if someone does open the program on a laptop or tablet, it will size up. It's much easier to size up than it is to smush something down to a smartphone screen size. Adult learning theory says that our adult learners are typically visual learners, which a screen lends itself very nicely to that. Again, the lessons are shorter. We try to keep a very user-friendly interface, and I like to point out that that's not because of necessarily just digital literacy shortcomings of the audience. It's actually not that at all. Actually, all learners, regardless of education and comfort with tech, prefer websites and online resources that are user-friendly. So you can think of yourself, if you open up a website that's very clunky and you can't figure out where to click, you'll probably just go to a new website. We have Southern influence throughout. As Adam mentioned, we are in Georgia, and so we have highlighted recipes that feature Southern foods. We have Southern foods in our some of our games that I'll show you in a minute, and we do have a voiceover throughout to help with issues of limited literacy, to help engage learners who prefer to hear versus read. And the Southern and the voiceover does have a significant Southern accent, which we tried to accommodate our Southern learners. We have educational videos, and then not only with the voiceover, but also closed captioning throughout the entire program, so to accommodate the 508 compliance. Some of our engaging format, so we have interactive games and lessons, and so you can see in the upper right screen, those activities are actually slide, drag, and drop activities. There's multiple choice. Again, there's a voiceover feature. We have cooking videos, exercise videos, just-in-time videos. And what I want to point out here is that some of the resources we needed to develop these interactive games and videos were resources that were, it was a little tricky to try to get funded through the SNAP-Ed guidance. And so we had to be really work carefully with our funding agency to be creative in how to get these really unique items, such as an e-learning designer, a web developer, actors if we needed them, spaces to shoot the video that had nice lighting so that it would come across as nice videos. And some of these were kind of new back in 2014 when we started getting these resources. Thank you. One of the #1 questions I get about Food eTalk is, and I'm not watching the Q&A, but maybe the question's already come in, is this an app? And the answer is no. Food eTalk is hosted, and Food eTalk Better You are hosted on a web-based platform. We specifically chose a web-based platform for a couple reasons. One, when we started in 2014, developing an app was extremely cost prohibitive. So that was one main reason. Two, we knew that most of our participants were utilizing the internet through smartphones, but not all of them. And some participants who had maybe an older computer, accessing an app was not really going to be feasible for them versus accessing a web-based program that, again, is formatted to fit a smartphone screen size. And finally, the updates were much easier to make on a website, unlike an app, where an app the user has to download updates to make sure he or she is getting the most recent information. We didn't need to do that with a web-based platform. It could be updates in live time. Next slide. Thank you. And on this particular slide, and I believe this is my last slide, the timeline is not meant to scare anybody off by any means. Certainly, we're hoping by this presentation and by making ourselves available to support anyone who wants to develop their own or collaborate with us in the future to help save you some of this timeline, some of the, again, the bumps in the road that we went through. But again, starting in late 2013, all the way till 2019 is when we really were evaluating and developing and iteratively designing these programs. We were recognized in 2019 as the SNAP-Ed Toolkit Research Tested Evidence-Based Intervention for Food eTalk, which we're very proud of. You'll find that on SNAP-Ed Connect. Just, again, pointing out that this didn't happen overnight. So, again, we're happy to help and support any other implementing agency that wants to develop, again, an asynchronous, intentionally not live time program. And I'll let it go.
Thank you, Sarah, for that iteration of everything that has happened in the past few years. This slide will show you the participant experience, and I have seen a couple of questions on the chat or the Q&A, but It's meant to show you that it's a lengthy process because we want to comply with the SNAP-Ed guidance, making sure that our resources are available to eligible participants. So a user will come to our website and they have free access to videos and blogs and recipes. But if they want to visit the e-learning modules, they have to follow and complete a few steps. That includes creating a profile, a password, and then they will be filling some demographic information. We will determine if they are eligible for the services or to use our e-learning based on their zip code, their location, and if they receive any federally funded program resources. And then they will have to access a survey via Qualtrics and also a consent form. Once they go through that process, they will have the opportunity to engage with the learning modules, and then we will give them some information about completion and how to get some extenders as they finish the experience. To help us implement the program, we have relied on our partners in our cooperative extension relationship that we have at the local level. We promote our program through postcards, educational materials. We also invite people to sign up for e-learning newsletters. We follow on social media our e-learning and promote that as well. And we also have a state coordinator, a recruitment coordinator that helps other agencies discover our resources in many ways. We also promote our program through e-learning agencies. We work with safety net clinics when they use the e-learning as part of their nutrition education. There are some care management organizations that are hoping to use the e-learning resources for their subscribers, and we use the county health initiatives and the e-learning to connect the community as well. Back in 2020, January, we had a statewide rollout that involved all the county extension agents in the state, about 500 people, with the intention to have a comprehensive initiative or plan for this year. After the pandemic, we have been sharing our information on websites, on all 159 county websites, and we have been providing an e-learning monitoring tool for them as well. This is a sample of the completion certificate that a participant will receive, and the email that the counties will receive, alerting them that some people in their communities are finishing the e-learning tools, an example of our e-learning extenders resources. Some of the challenges, we have had many across the years, but we have decided to share just a few of them with you. Determining eligibility is a challenge because it's a lengthy process. Making sure that the content can be adapted to the length of the e-learning experience. The evaluation is also important, how to make sure that the participant completes the evaluation on a timely manner so we can report on their experience. Money has always been a player, so money to be able to get the resources for the development, the implementation, and some of the updates that we have had to do during the time of this program. Also, we're using hotspots, but also having a monthly plan to be able to use those devices. It's important for us because we then can share that with people in the community that don't have those resources available to them. With the pandemic, we have also discovered new opportunities. The e-learning can be used as a standalone program model in lieu of face-to-face programming. One of our projects have used e-learning as the content for their Fulton Fresh mobile fresh produce distribution. We have also we have seen an increase in visitors to our website from people across the nation. We have had the pleasure to talk to maybe some of you that are here today about your interest in using our e-learning resources. And we have recently submitted a model to our regional office, to our regional FNS office, to see if we can expand this program across our boundaries And we are also waiting on an opportunity to do more rigorous impact evaluation of our program in collaboration with other implementing agencies outside of Georgia as well. This is a slide that is related to our evaluation, which we will share in more detail next week when we have our next webinar, and we hope to have you join us then, and we will then answer some of your questions as well. These are references for our presentation and our contact information. Gina, you're muted.
How about now? Okay, I appreciate the WebEx is trying to keep me on my toes. Thank you, and you can mute yourself now. Sorry about that. I'll just repeat what I said, but basically it was thank you to the team in Georgia for presenting such wonderful information. We have received many questions. I did receive some questions directly to me as the host, and I am getting a lot of messages about technical issues. So if you have questions for the presenters about the content of their presentation, please send those questions to the recipient, all panelists. That way we can make sure that your question doesn't get lost in the rubble. So thank you so much. A couple housekeeping questions I will answer now because we're getting a lot of them. Yes, we will send out the PowerPoint slides to everyone. Yes, this is being recorded, and we will make it available for all of your colleagues who didn't get on the line today to watch this as a recorded event. So I apologize about that so much. But let's move on to our next presenter. I'm going to load up the next set of slides. Okay, and I'm going to give Anna the presenter status, which I can do. So no need for everyone to do that for me. Thank you. Hang on. Working with kids. Get up there. Okay, Anna, you should have the presenter status now. I'll just introduce you briefly. We're going to be hearing from Anna Ferrier with Cooking with Kids. She's the Executive Director of Cooking with Kids, Inc., which is a nationally recognized nonprofit organization and SNAP-Ed implementing agency based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Cooking with Kids was founded in 1995. It educates and empowers children and families to make healthy food choices through hands-on learning, with fresh and affordable foods. She'll be sharing with us how their program, which has traditionally delivered face-to-face direct education, has embraced some new and innovative delivery methods so that they can keep meeting the needs of their community and meeting their needs of their mission. Okay, Anna, you should have the ability to control the slides, so I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Gina. Probably announcing my slides. And Gina, you're still muted.
Is anyone else seeing the Cooking with Kids slides? Okay. I'm seeing the Cooking with Kids slides.
I can do a 20-minute monologue, but probably no one would want to hear it.
Anna, could you, do you see on the top a little drop-down menu where you can choose different files? Now that I've made you the presenter, you may need to select that yourself.
No.
Okay. Do you see above my head, if you mouse over me, there's a little circle with a line through it. It looks like a circle cut in half.
Yeah, make you the presenter.
And I'm going to put up
Oh,
the slides
yeah,
again.
I just see my slides.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, now I'm going to make you the presenter again. And now you should be able to go through your slides.
Great, thank you.
Cooking with Kids slides? Okay.
Yes, okay, hopefully I can go through them. So thank you, Gina. Thank you. And hello from New Mexico, SNAP-Ed, everyone. I'm Anna Ferrier, the Director of Cooking with Kids, and just so happy to be part of this conversation. And I use that as the operative word because it does feel like we're all kind of learning this new world together, and the conversation and what we're learning from each other is just becoming so, so important. So as Gina mentioned, Cooking with Kids is a nonprofit. We've been doing this for 25 years, and over 20 of it has been as part of the SNAP-Ed network here in New Mexico and then nationally as well. Our programming is based in schools, and most of what we do is direct ed, and that's what this is focused on, this presentation. But we do a fair amount of PSE work sort of behind the scenes, but we're not going to talk so much about that today. We work in 19 schools here in northern New Mexico with about 5,000 kids each year. And our classes are delivered as a series. And so any individual child over the course of the school year has probably about 10 Cooking with Kids experiences. And all children that go to any particular school that we work in participate because they're high, free, and reduced numbers. On average, it's about 88%. So target audience of elementary school kids and their parents. So for us, schools closed in abruptly in March, and here we are, we're doing in-person programming and quickly had to start switching things up a bit. And there are things though that don't change, like our mission is still the same. We still want to get kids excited about eating healthy food. We still want to influence eating behaviors in families. And the target audience is still the same. We're still working with kids in schools. The setting is sort of the same. Instead of a physical classroom, it's now a virtual classroom. And our educators are the same. We know how important the relationships are that our kids have with their particular educator at their particular school. So those things haven't changed. And as we started trialing some of this stuff last spring, we realized if we were going to continue to work with our target audience in the same settings, that there were going to be some issues right off the bat. The first one being restriction and privacy protections around protecting children in a classroom setting. We can't just march into the virtual classroom. So we had to find our partners, which in our instance are the principals and the teachers. And so Cooking with Kids educators are invited into these private school networks as basically a special guest. And the other thing that was apparent right away was there were going to be equity issues that needed to be addressed. So if kids were learning from home, there was going to be limited access to food and equipment and those sorts of things. So we really had to factor those in as we were developing our lessons. I'll talk more about this stuff as we go through. Limited access to technology was more, this was more in reference to our own staff, because again, in March, we realized we were relying on everybody to use their own equipment. So some people had an iPhone and some people had a laptop or a Chromebook or something like that. And as we were trialing some of these new approaches, troubleshooting was just a real problem because you didn't know what device someone was using. Furthermore, it seems kind of an imposition to ask staff to use their own equipment. So what we ended up doing, like Etta was saying, money's always an issue. So we were able to write a small grant to a local community foundation for a COVID relief grant to adapt, an adaptation of the work that we did. And we're able to buy Chromebooks for all of our staff. And those just came in recently. The reason we chose Chromebooks is because we're using the school districts that we work in. They are using the Google format, the Google Classroom format. So we want to be able to match that up. And then, of course, another sort of access issue is folks' varying levels of comfort with technology, not only the participants, but our own staff. So we're practicing a lot with each other, even with the kids and our families as we're rolling these things out. So this is just an overview of how we've shifted our direct education interventions. And the first question that people ask us is, cooking with kids, well, how the heck are you going to do that? You know, because normally we have classrooms in schools. We use our curriculum that's geared specifically for that. And cooking is obviously an issue. So how do we continue to keep that experiential learning at the heart of what we do? And that's what we're trying to recreate in homes with our kids. So hands-on cooking and tasting lessons in school classrooms have now become digital, and we're doing synchronous learning because for kids, that engagement is so important. Kids can access YouTube stuff all over the place, but they can't have a private cooking lesson or a tasting lesson with their educator from their school. Something to mention, though, one of the reasons that we're able to be in the schools as part of the school day is because our lessons are aligned with academic standards. So many of you out there probably know how hard it is to find time during the school day. So this academic connection needs to continue in the digital lessons that we've created as well. Like I mentioned, we're not doing any cooking per se, but we are trying to provide positive experiences with healthy kids, with healthy foods for our kids. Another piece of this is, besides the several thousand kids we work with every year, we have about 1,000 family members that participate. They're active participants. Our volunteers are an integral part of our programming, and we don't want to leave them behind. So we've created virtual family cooking nights, which I'll talk about in a sec. Another piece of our normal programming includes doing promotions and farmers market stands, things like that in school cafeterias. So that's been morphed a little bit, actually a lot, to doing taste tests that have been distributed during the school lunch distributions. And this is actually, this has proved to be really difficult. The food piece, getting food to kids when they're not in school, is really hard. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we've done that, but that's going to continue to be more difficult, I think, than figuring out the lessons. And when kids are in school, if there's a hybrid model, we have some options for that, either through student nutrition or through dropping things off at the schools. But when they're at home, those equity issues start to come into play. So we're working on that, and that's something we're going to continue to work on. At the end of every class that we have with a kid, printed recipes go home. Those are now digital. The classroom teacher distributes those. And I'm going to go through these different approaches and just get into a little bit of detail. So what you're going to see in these next several slides are some examples of the Google slides that we've created. That's how we're creating our lessons. And some of the things we learned right away was we're not going to be able to recreate what we do in the classroom. And to have that expectation is just going to make everybody disappointed. So our curriculum, by the way, our curriculum is part of the SNAP-Ed Toolkit. It's research tested, evidence-based, and we're using that as the pulling content from that and adapting it for the virtual lessons. We're not trying to create anything brand new. It's just too hard. To expect that our educators are going to learn new content along with this new delivery format. So we're trying to keep everything as simple as possible. We're providing really clear frameworks, some scripting, sort of like a lesson plan, but a digital lesson plan, and you'll see here in a sec. Our classes are usually in the classroom anywhere from 1 to 2 hours long, depending on what it is that we're doing. That's not going to fly. An hour tops with these digital lessons. And one of the things we found ourselves doing, down here, there's this little note that says, set the tone, focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. And here's sort of some of we were hearing ourselves saying things like this when we were with groups of kids or families. Oh, we miss you guys. We're so sorry we can't be there in person. Oh, you know, that sort of thing. And that's just sad. So what we're trying to do is come across more like this. Hey, you guys, this is so exciting. We're happy to be with you. This is so cool, so high tech, you know, our own private food network, that sort of thing. So you get kids really excited and not feeling like they're missing anything. This is a cool new experience for them. These are a couple slides, examples of the presenter view for our educators. The slide on the left, the fruit and vegetable scavenger hunt, is what the kids see. And on the right are the speaker notes, which are kind of the lesson plans, the directions for our educators to say, okay, now flip to the next slide and now put it on yourself. And we want to try and support our educators as much as possible, and this is one way to do it. Another logistical piece is the classroom teacher is the host and manages the children as the participants. So again, we're just sort of let in as a special guest. Something I'd like to draw your attention to on the fruit and vegetable scavenger hunt slide, there's a little sentence that says, telling the kids to do a little scavenger hunt, find a fruit or vegetable that's on the rainbow, that sort of thing. And what we know is there's going to be a lot of kids that won't have fruits or vegetables in their home. So that, again, is an equity issue. And so what we're asking the kids to do is saying, if you can't find this in your house, then here's another option. Draw it instead. So, and we don't want to use the language, if you don't have this thing in your house, because that implies a lack in the home. So what we say instead is, if you can't find it, do this. So we're automatically giving an option for participation. Just some more things we're learning about digital lessons. I think it goes without saying that online learning tends to address auditory and visual learners. So what we're trying to do is mix up the lessons so that kids can have more hands-on experiences. We're including, like during a lesson that's being, or a reading, kids get up, they move around. We're including videos, demos, that sort of thing. Something that we learned that's actually kind of cool is typically this little book that is showing here is called My Five Senses. It's something that we work with the kindergarten kids with, get them excited, you know, talking about using their senses when they're experiencing food. Well, it's really hard when you're trying to read a book, you know, with a bunch of kids to be holding it up to the screen and like trying to turn the pages and read to it. So what we're doing is digitizing all the books. And this one is in the Spanish language. And so what PDFs allow you to do, though, is translate it right there on the page. So you can see in that little picture of that the baby crawling. The text is in Spanish, but then the translation is below in English. So the kids can see visually the Spanish and the English at the same time, which is not typically something you can do in person. So that's a nice adaptation that turns out to be pretty good. For videos, we're bringing in short little videos in these 1-hour lessons. Virtual field trips are turning out to be a fun thing where we take kids to a farm. We work with a lot of local farmers and chefs, so we'll have them visit a chef in their kitchen or a farmer in their fields, and so bringing the kids to the chef or the farmer rather than the other way around, which we have those folks in our classrooms a lot. Oops. So that was just a quick overview of the digital lessons. And then during an in-person lesson, we typically are sending stuff home at the end of the class. It's a home recipe. Well, those are going to be digitized now. So the example you'll see on the right, this is Miss Kathy, one of our educators. She did this photo recipe card that she sent home with to her families in the spring. And they're colorful, they're fun. So that is something that the classroom teacher distributes to the kids and their families. Again, we can't, because of privacy issues, we can't interact directly with kids in that way. So the so we're going to continue to do that as part of our digital lessons. We aren't abandoning paper altogether, though. On the left is an example of something that was sent home, I think just last week. We're still collaborating with Student Nutrition to do taste tests for kids. Instead of that happening in the cafeteria, though, it's happening as part of, pick up lunches. So there's going to be a little sample of, in this instance, it was cherries. And here's our little, flyer that it's just like a little educational flyer. It talks about who grew the food, eat a rainbow, that sort of thing. The SNAP-Ed statements dropped in on there. It's just a half page, front and back, Spanish and English. And we get the food to the student nutrition folks. They were able to pack it up for us and then send this flyer home to the families. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of families that participate in our classes with their kids, and that's such an important part of this work. So how do we continue to connect with them? Because family volunteers aren't going to be coming to our classes anymore during the day. So we started doing these virtual family cooking nights, and we were able to trial several of them in the spring. And they were such a great success. They were so much fun. This is something we have often done live in schools, but we're limited to the number of people who can participate just by sheer logistics. You can't have many more than 50 people cooking together. It just gets out of control. So this way, all families can participate. And it's just turned out to be way better than we ever expected. So, and it's kind of low tech. I mean, we're not doing anything too fancy here. Again, this is synchronous. This is an example of the invitation that was sent home by the principal to the families at this particular school. This is Chef Mariella. The school that she works at is bilingual, so we have to address those language issues. And what we want to keep this simple. We're not inventing anything new. This is a recipe that most of our staff can do in their sleep. In this instance, it was vegetable fried rice. The reason that one was chosen because there's easy substitutions. Families can use whatever veggies they have at home, etc. And a couple of things that we learned though. For us, a 3-person collaboration worked best, which means we had our staff member who is on screen here. There's Mariella right there. You can see it's totally not high tech. So, and some other of our educators, there's Bree and Susie. They were in their home, in their own kitchen, and so that's our Cooking with Kids educator. And then we also had a Cooking with Kids person monitoring the chat. So you can notice Rachel's right here, and she's answering in Spanish and English because this is a bilingual community. So we needed at least 2 Cooking with Kids people. And then the host from the school was in charge of, muting everybody and giving the instructions and all that. So that works the best. And if you're working with smaller groups, I don't know that you necessarily need all that, but for us, it was important to have those 3 people for sure. But something we learned was the school host, so this was say a 45-minute, an hour lesson. The people would come and go. A lot of people didn't join till a little later, and then they drop off, and then they come back on. So if they miss the instructions at the beginning, here's how you pin, here's how you mute, those sorts of things, it got a little disruptive. So people would join in, they didn't mute, that sort of thing. So we realized it's going to be important for people to, for the host to every 15 minutes or so say, hey, if you're just joining in, here's how you do this and this and this. So that was a lesson learned. And then here's some other, the best part, look at this, this is so cute. The kids in their jammies, the schools posted all this stuff on their social media. And what we loved about this though was that it was allowing people to cook in their own kitchens with their own stuff and figuring out, this isn't hard. We can do this at home by ourselves. Because typically these families would be in our classrooms in our schools. This way, it's a way for folks to realize, hey, this isn't so hard, I can do this. and the kids are in the kitchen with them. And the kids are kind of the experts because they've had this at school before. We've decided that no matter what, in the future, we're going to continue to do our family nights in this fashion. And something I forgot to mention is the recipes were sent home ahead of time, so people were able to, you know, stock up with whatever they needed. And finally, it is all about engagement. If this isn't interesting and it's boring for kids or families, they're just going to tune out and not watch it, and the schools are not going to find us a valuable partner. So, but we do know that teachers are looking for help. This is a really hard time, and if you can supply quality content to a school, they're going to welcome you in. You have to get through those hoops as far as the privacy issues, but if you can do that, this is, you know, providing experiential opportunities for kids when they're home is going to be really important for families and for kids. And keeping our staff engaged too. For us, the synchronous learning is really nice because you get instant feedback. And like I said, we're figuring this out. We're going to keep going. We're in these 2 weeks right now, starting yesterday. We're trialing this with one of the summer programs in one of our districts. So I'm sure in another week we're going to change something again. So, but the nice thing about digital is you can easily do that. So this is my contact info. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And we have a lot of stuff on our website too that's free for download. Lots of resources from over the years. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much, Gina.
Thank you.
Oh, Gina, you're muted again.
Hey, there we go. Isn't technology fun? See, I'm phrasing things as a positive. Thank you very much. That was really fun to watch and learn from. We will have time for questions and answers at the end, but we're going to go right to our final presentation because we don't want to waste any more time. So our next presenters, let me pull up their slides, are coming to us from Colorado. You should all see their slides. I'm going to pass the presenter status to Julie. Okay, she should be getting that. And I'll do a quick introduction. We're going to be hearing from Julie Atwood as well as Devyani Pendleton, the program manager. Julie is the program director. She's been working with the Integrated Nutrition Education Program since 2001. She has spent the majority of her career trying to provide youth and their families with nutrition and healthy lifestyle information. And Div Pendleton has been working in the nutrition field with minority communities with an emphasis on working with schools, students, and their families since starting her dietetic internship in 2011. So you will have the control of the slides now, Julie, so take it away.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay, good. So first of all, I want to apologize. It took me 40 minutes to get into the meeting because I guess it's been very popular and I was very freaked out. So if I can't advance the slides, Div will be able to. Yeah, looks like it's working. Okay, so just wanted to give you guys a little bit of information about Text to Live Healthy. Here in Colorado, we are part of the Rocky Mountain Prevention Research Center and work both with the Integrated Nutrition Education Program and the Culture of Wellness in Preschool. So we're primarily an elementary and Head Start early childhood nutrition education program. We're going to be talking about the objectives that were outlined probably at the beginning of this presentation. So we're going to give you a little information about using texting as an intervention with low-income communities in the state of Colorado and how it can be used in your areas. We're going to be talking about how you can learn a little bit more about the texting intervention, how we implemented it, how we evaluated it, and then some of our strategies for engaging with our SNAP-Ed audience. There are a tremendous number of really talented, wonderful people who have been working with us in Colorado on this texting intervention. So we just wanted to acknowledge and thank them. It has been a huge team effort. And just to give you a little bit of background about Text to Live Healthy, for any of those who aren't familiar with it, like I said, we are a youth-based program working with elementary schools and, low-income Head Start and early childhood centers. So we do classroom-based nutrition education, where it's actually the classroom teacher themselves that teaches the lessons, although we provide the curriculum, the food, the resources, and then this just really gives the students an opportunity to do hands-on lessons and recipes and things in the classroom. And so this is probably familiar to a lot of you. A lot of you do similar things. But what we also do is we have a true commitment to making sure that everything we're doing with the youth is connecting to the home. So not only do we do PSE work in the schools, there's a big outreach part of our program to connect with the families as well. So it's something as simple as a family letter with recipes, nutrition tips, those kinds of things that goes home with the kids after each lesson. We send home newsletters. We set up in the schools and do table talks. We're able to work with our schools and our sites to offer one-time workshops for the families to attend, 45-minute to an hour workshop on different themes so they can come in and also do some hands-on nutrition ed, cooking, physical activity ideas, things like that. And then we also have a 6-week class series where the families, the adults, are invited to attend the 6-week class series. So you can see that Text to Live Healthy is one of these strategies that we've implemented to really connect with our families. And it's turned out to be incredibly effective, especially for those families who are, not always able to come to school to attend a workshop, to attend a series. This texting program has turned out to really be a way to connect with those families. So a little bit of background about texting. Mobile health, or mHealth, is what you'll hear it referred to a lot of times. And it is being widely used to reach low-income participants throughout the country, especially our Spanish-speaking families. Many of them have shared with us that this is really their preferred way of connecting with us and receiving information. It does turn out that there are very few programs using this that have been rigorously designed, tested, and are evidence-based, especially around providing nutrition ed and physical activity ideas to the families. We also acknowledge that there is currently a lack of research being done in this area. We're in the process of doing that. We hope others are. So there's going to be a lot more that we learn, but we have found that it has been very effective for our families. So to begin with, our goal is we're really trying to find a way to help influence behavior change for the entire family. So this is connecting to the adults, but it's themes around working together as a family. We're working around increasing consumption of fruits and vegetables, increasing physical activity, decreasing consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages while also consuming more water. And the way we have it set up is that whenever you opt into our program, everyone that is in the intervention is going to get the exact same messages in the exact same order, depending on when they start. When they start, they're going to get these themes, and then every 3 to 4 weeks, there are some evaluation questions that come along with it that allow us to really follow what kind of an influence and what kind of impact we're having. We do offer the messages in English and Spanish, and they select that when they first join in. It's 2 to 3 health messages per week on the core topics, and then many times there's a local message that comes out as well. So we can target it to the particular school we're working with, to the particular region of the state. If we know that there's a health fair going on at the school, if we know that a farmer's market is opening, if we know that we want to let everybody know asparagus is in season, here's a recipe, we can send along those local messages as well. This is just, this next slide is some of our sample text messages. We're able to personalize them with a name, which is really helps our families feel very connected. We have focused all of our messaging and our entire intervention on different theoretical models and different domains, whether it's self-efficacy, skills, knowledge-based. The messages tie back directly to those theoretical models. And many of our messages you'll see will include links. They'll maybe have a short video. It can take you to a website with more information. It can provide recipes, connect you with a PDF that we've created to go with these. Currently, have a reach of over 3,000 subscribers. About 70% are English speaking and 30% are Spanish speaking. In FY19, we had a retention rate of 82%. We weren't sure what would happen, but we quickly realized we were going to have to develop a year 2. So we developed a second year. Weren't sure how long people would continue at that point. Close to the end of the second year, we realized people were not going away, which we were very happy about. So we're now entering our 3rd year of people participating for starting of the 3rd year of this intervention. So that part has been really exciting to see. We are tracking things like user engagement. So we're looking at how many subscribers we have. Are they clicking on the link? You know, those types of information. We're receiving an average of 71 messages per month from subscribers. 5 to 10% of the subscribers are engaging with what we call branching logic. So it might be a little bit hard to see here, but some of our questions provide you, the participants, an option to click A, B, or C, and depending on what they select, they're going to get a tailored message back in response to that message that was, that question that was asked. Let's see. And then Div may have a little bit more she wants to add to that, but really what we wanted to do now is shift to how this program has become obvious that it's such a beneficial way to connect with our families. During COVID, this was an immediate opportunity for us to connect with over 3,000 of our families who could then connect some of the messages with their other families and friends. So I'm going to let Div talk more specifically now about how we've been using Text to Live Healthy during COVID.
Thank you, Julie. Am I able to advance the slides now? Okay, perfect. So like Julie mentioned, we really wanted to make sure that our messages resonated with subscribers. You know, we worked with community partners to really determine what the needs are of our community. We heard from our current subscribers, we heard from different partner organizations, and we realized that this crisis has caused numerous strains on our families, like access to food, water, physical activity. So we wanted to make sure that our texts still made sense for them. So we created texts that were very specific to help our families around the COVID-19 pandemic. We sent out messages regarding access to food, food resource management, food safety, recipes using common canned foods that families may already have on hand. And we just want to let our subscribers know that we're there for them. We're here to support them. We began this programmatic shift in March 23rd. And initially we thought, well, we'll just go through May and then maybe this will be over. And we are still sending out those COVID-19 specific messages. And like Julie mentioned, it's going to about 3,000 subscribers. So from March 23rd until now, we have sent actually over 50 local messages specific to COVID-19. Some of the themes of the messages include those supportive messages, links to resources, food access for adults and for children, so partnering with schools and food banks and food pantries, food storage, grocery shopping. So we created a wide variety of messages that we sent out. And when we say local messages, what we mean is that these were crafted to provide targeted information to different areas. We're a statewide program across the state of Colorado, so we wanted to really make sure that the messages were very community specific. We also wanted to know how this pandemic has affected our families' healthy eating and physical activity. So we sent out 2 evaluation questions via text as well. And here are some sample local messages that were sent during COVID-19. So if we look at the first one, that's promoting our school meal sites. So it says, although schools are closed to keep families safe, free breakfast and lunch grab-and-go meals are available Monday through Friday for anyone under 18 years at DPS sites. And then there's a link for more information. We've sent, the second one is an example of our physical activity text that we sent out to families. The third one is an example of branching logic that Julie had talked about. So we really wanted to tailor our message to what families want. So here we say, we're here to support you through this challenging time. What type of resources would you like to know more about? Please reply with A for easy recipe video, B for COVID-19 resources, C for physical activity, D for wellness, mind and body connection, or E for a virtual hug. Maybe that's what you just need at that time. And so we found that branching logic is a great way for us to engage with our families and really tailor the information to what they need. So I'm going to go over our evaluation results to those healthy eating and physical activity questions that we sent out. So the question we sent out to all our subscribers is, how has the coronavirus affected your family's healthy eating? Better, same, or worse? And so the 2 circles that you see, the one on the left is our responses from our English participants, and on the one on the right is our responses from our Spanish-speaking participants. Overall, we were actually fairly surprised to see that the results were similar by language. And the reason we were surprised is when we have looked at our other evaluation results, just to evaluate the outcomes and the impact of our programming, we've always seen a statistically significant difference by language. So we ran the analyses for this one too, and there was no difference. We can see that about close to 50% are saying their healthy eating is about the same, but quite a few of them are saying that it's worse. And so I'm going to share some quotes that we got along with the results of the evaluation. So the next question that we sent out was to figure out how the pandemic has affected their physical activity. So we said, how has the coronavirus affected your family's physical activity level? Is it more, same, or less? And again, we can see about 50% or half said that it's affected them more. About a quarter to a third are saying less, and about 20% are saying that it's the same. So here are some comments that we received from our participants. They just texted the comments into us. And this is related to the healthy eating question. So one subscriber said, yes, it has affected me because eating healthy costs. And one was left with nothing for rent and food, the little we had. Another participant said, there is a shortage of canned foods, and I don't want to go out a lot and expose myself and my daughter. And so what we did is we used the comments and these evaluation results to really create the program to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our subscribers. We also received some additional text from our subscribers and how our texting program may have helped them through this pandemic. So one subscriber said, your texts have been so good recently. Thank you for all that you are doing. Another person said, thank you so much for all your support. It definitely makes a positive difference. Be safe and God bless all of you. Another person said, this helps me a huge amount. My family would not have gotten through it without them. And then the last one is, it's very good ideas to put them into practice. So we heard from our subscribers that there is this huge need for this sort of information. And so we just wanted to respond to that need. So thinking through recruitment strategies, so pre-COVID, Julie mentioned we worked with schools and preschools statewide. So all of our recruitment pre-COVID was in person. This is through back to school nights or parent coffees. We created posters and flyers with how to opt in. So on the right, you'll see an image of that we would put on a flyer or a poster. And we did a lot of one-on-one recruitment. We found that parents struggled with how to opt in to a texting program where the number looks kind of weird. It's not really a phone number. So we did a lot of that in-person one-on-one recruitment. However, with COVID, all of that went away, but we realized that this program is really valuable. We're hearing this from our subscribers. How can we share this with other parents who may not be receiving these texts? And so we tried to think creatively about how we could still offer and recruit for our program. So what we did is we recruited by sharing flyers through our connections with our schools and our preschools. And so the classroom teachers who are the ones who sent out our recruitment information to families and to parents. We created QR codes, so that's what you see on the right, where when you have a smartphone, you take a picture of the QR code and that automatically sends, opens up the browser where you can, type in your information to register with the program. So we did this for ease of registration because we found that sending a link to a flyer may not be that easy, because how do you get the flyer and then you type in the URL? And so we were thinking about strategies on how to make it easier for our families. So I want to leave you with this quote that we received from our subscribers. And she said, well, it feels like a privilege. I think that maybe other people that speak other languages don't have the same opportunity. So what it really said to us is that there's a great need for programs like this or information like this for other communities outside of those who are speaking English and Spanish. What we have done on our end is we are partnering with several community organizations and state agencies to adapt our program for older adults, for tribal communities in South Dakota and in Colorado. And we're also working with other SNAP-Ed implementing agencies across the country to bring this program to other SNAP-Ed communities. I want to thank you all for letting us share about our program, and I believe there will be time for questions at the end. So Gina, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. I will grab the presenter status. Okay. We have had a lot of questions come in. And unfortunately, I can tell you right now, we're not going to get a chance to get to all of them. I wish we could, but why is this slide coming up? Here we go. Before we get into the questions for our speakers, I want to just repeat, yes, we are aware there was a capacity issue. We are so sorry for your friends and colleagues who were not able to get in today. We are going to work as hard as we can to get this presentation and the following ones online so everyone can view and have access to this great information as soon as possible. We will also be emailing out copies of slides. I know right now we're not going to be able to get to all of our questions. So I'm going to, on the fly, ask if all of the presenters, and I'm just going to accept this request on their behalf. We will consolidate the top questions for each group that we don't get to today. I will send them to the presenters so they can have time to respond, and we will post that as a document as a follow-up to this presentation, because there's so many great meaty questions, and I just know we're not going to be able to get to all of them today, so I'm sorry about that. And I want to mention that for the next two sessions. We're going to be doing Q&A a little bit differently. We're going to allow everyone to start submitting their questions in advance. That will give us time. The next two topics are evaluation and measuring program impact and data collection and reporting. Those are two topics that always have a lot of really nuanced, complex questions. So we want to give our speakers time to create great answers for you and give everyone a chance to send in their really thoughtful questions. So if you can see that link right now, we're using a program called Slido. It's a website. You go there, you can submit your question. Also, you'll be able to see the questions that have already been submitted. So if you support that question, if you have the same question, you can just upvote it. You don't have to ask it again. You can see the types of questions that we're getting, and that's live now. So you can go onto that URL right now and start submitting your questions for the next two topics, which are measuring and evaluating program impact and data collection and reporting. So that's open now. Feel free to start submitting your questions on those two topics now. So, and we will try to create our presentation to tailor, if there's a significant need in one direction, we can swing in that direction. So please, I know you can't click on the link in the slide, but someone's going to post that into the Q&A box. So you can either click on that link or you can just copy and paste it, save it for later. I will put the link to this on our SNAP-Ed Connection webinars page as well. So yes, it is going to be shared via the chat or the Q&A. One of my colleagues is going to put that in there, so you can copy and paste. Okay, so I am going to get ready to start asking some questions. If the presenters could unmute themselves to speak and then mute themselves again, this could get a little fuzzy with some feedback. I'm aware that that's going to happen. I apologize in advance. I'm going to try to mute myself too. Okay, so let's get to a couple of the first questions for the Food e-Talk group from Georgia. Do the Food e-Talk count as direct education or indirect? Under SNAP-Ed, 20-minute standard in order to be counted as direct ed delivery. How does e-Talk count the interaction in ears since the average session length is 8 to 12 minutes? Feel free to hang on to your response to data reporting for the next seminar, but if you could just address that question, that would be great.
Yeah, please start, Joanna. You're muted.
Hi, Gina, I was going to take this question. I didn't present today, but my name is Joanna Aiken. I'm the evaluation coordinator for the UGA SNAP-Ed program. And this is a great question. And actually, taken as a whole, the entire Food e-Talk intervention, each lesson in the series, so each module takes an average of 8 to 12 minutes in that original Food e-Talk 6-lesson series. So taken as a whole, we do meet that 20-minute threshold for direct education. And as you also saw, we really meet the requirement for the content being interactive multimedia. So we do count it as direct education. And we're very sure, I think it's item 4 on the ears, we're very careful about calculating the actual number of modules completed in total by our participants. And I can also, if it's okay, Gina, I can also answer another question I saw in the chat about the number of people who cycle through the e-learning programs. We last year had about 670 people create online learning profiles through our website. And this year, there's been such a demand for e-learning. We've seen over 1,500 people creating profiles for e-learning on our website. So thank you.
Thank you. Another question for your team. Was there any training on computer literacy with participants?
There is none because the participants just visit the website on their own. Through the recruitment coordinator, she has some opportunities to work locally with agencies and participants, and there's some technical assistance with them. And when she discovers some things that need to be updated on the website, then she brings that feedback to our office as well.
Thank you. One more question for your team. Have there been concerns or issues with the sign-in process that might be prohibitive for eligible participants? Because I can imagine that this added step may discourage people from using or accessing the lessons.
Well, definitely, we are trying to find some ways to make this an easier process and make sure that we are in compliance with the SNAP-Ed guidelines. So we have been talking to our state office and with our regional offices to make sure that we can definitely look for ways to make this process less cumbersome on the participant and to make sure that they can access the resources as well.
Okay, and last question for your group is, which software or design platform did you use?
Sarah, would you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So it's actually using Articulate Storyline, which anyone can access, but and actually it's pretty easy to use. It's just like a PowerPoint-esque. However, we hired a professional e-learning design group called Yukon Learning, Yukon like the potato, and I'm happy to provide their information. They're based, I think, in Virginia. But so professional e-learning designers used Articulate Storyline to make our interface, I think, as beautiful as it is. So thank you for asking.
Thank you. We do have a lot more questions for your program. We're going to get those to you in writing and give you an opportunity to create responses that we can share with our attendees today. The next batch of questions we have is for cooking with kids. So Anna, big question we got was, talk to us about any special permissions you needed or any issues you faced regarding the digitizing of your books that you share. Was that an issue for you?
The way we are thinking, oh, Ed, I think you're still on. There you go, better. Since these are not being shared anywhere except in these private classroom settings, they're created on Google Slides where we can create restrictions around them. So they're just part of our digital toolbox. We're considering it not unlike reading a book to a child in person. These aren't being shared anywhere, and they're private. They're not even being shared with our educators. I mean, our teachers and students. It's just something we use. So we're not seeing the copyright issue as a problem.
Thank you. Next question is, are you planning to send food, like ingredients, to participants for cooking demos? If so, how do you plan to manage funds since SNAP-Ed funds only allow for sample sizes?
You're right. So the stuff that we're sending home in school lunches is part of the school lunch distribution. Those are little samples. And we're actually using money from another grant that we have with our Department of Agriculture that promotes local food. And then for the classes that we're doing, the digital classes, truth be told, we haven't figured that piece out yet. We don't know that we can get food to every single participating kid. And if even 1 or 2 kids are left out, then we don't want to do it. So we're trying to figure out other experiential ways for them to, have some sort of fun food experience that doesn't include them all having the same food. For the family nights, we just submitted a grant to a grocery chain to see if they'll sponsor cooking kits for families who don't have access to food. And then we would have the families pick up the food either at the school if the kids are in hybrid or at the school lunch sites if they're not.
Okay, thank you. This a follow-up question related, were you able to fund the groceries families would need to participate? If not, did the families have the resource to purchase those items? If you want to speak more about that, great, but I think you kind of covered that. But I'll just go to the next question. Was virtual family night direct education? Did you get demographics and record participants?
Yes, it was direct education. And we know that the demographics match the family. Since it was in one of the communities in which we work, the school we worked at, we know that those families, they're SNAP eligible. Like I said, 88% of our families at our schools are eligible, are free and reduced. So, and then what was this last part of it? How do we record participants?
Yes. How do you get demographics and record participants?
Well, what I just mentioned about the demographics, and then for the participants, their names are all lined up right there as part of the, so we'll work with the school. When this becomes more systematized, we'll work with the school to get like proper lists. Right now, truthfully, we just did screenshots.
Okay. Thank you. I'm screening through my questions here. So I believe, again, we have more questions for you, but I think that's all the time we have today. So I'm going to just do a few more questions. I know we're coming up on our time allotment here, but for the group in Colorado, did your subscribers increase more than usual during COVID-19? And what texting service do you use for this program?
Dick, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Since our recruitment efforts had changed from pre-COVID to post-COVID, I wouldn't say our subscriber numbers increased. We were actually really worried about our retention rate going down, which we didn't find. And the platform that we use is mobile messaging or mobile comments.
You. One more question for your group. I'm going to pick the most exciting and one that's says you've been researching and planning these programs for years. How can we adopt virtual teaching effectively in a shorter time span? How are the SNAP-Ed educators in counties involved with Text to Live Healthy? Is it mostly just recruiting participants to sign up?
So we have a fairly big team who has been instrumental in designing, developing this program, and I think Julie mentioned them in the acknowledgement slide. So it's a team effort. The way we partnered with other agencies is that the agency would recruit participants, and then we would work with them to adapt messages and to kind of use our expertise that we have created over the years in adapting the content, the platform, the logistics, in sending out those messages. I'm not sure if that was exactly your question, but I hope that helped.
Have you found that the having the QR codes has helped in your recruitment?
Yeah, I think it has helped. I think we're still thinking about ways to get the QR code to our families, because before that we didn't really have other ways of recruitment. Unless we send out a link, the teachers would then have to send out to the families. So I think it has helped. I think next school year and through the summer we'll really be thinking about how do we share those QR codes with the families and what avenues do we have with our school partnerships as well as community organizations that we can promote our program.
Okay, thank you. We are out of time. So again, we will endeavor to get to all of your questions and get those questions to our presenters so they can provide answers, and we'll post that on our SNAP-Ed Connection website. I want to give a big thank you to all of our panelists today, Dakota Rivera and Sarah Stutz, presenting from the University of Georgia, to Anna Ferrier with Cooking with Kids, and to Julie Atwood and Div Pendleton at Text to Live Healthy in Colorado. So much good information today. Thank you to all of our attendees who attended today, and please send our sincere apologies to your colleagues who were not able to get in. We hope that you can join us at the same time next week. We will do some troubleshooting on our end to make sure that everyone can get in. August 4th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be taking a closer look at evaluation and measuring program impact. So wherever you are, I hope you are well and safe, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much.